Hi, Diana. Thank you for your time.
Hi.
Welcome to our class. So we here are in family law, and we're discussing how families are integrated and how marriage is in each country and the dynamics between men and women. Also, if they are religious marriages and they have a certain specific law applied to them, and if in your country the marriage between same-sex couples is legal or not. So we want to
Okay.
explore all of these things. So please just introduce yourself, tell us where you are, and a little bit.
My name is Anna. I am from Nairobi, Kenya. So, in this particular regard, I can talk about both the law and because in our country there is a dual process. For Muslim people, they follow the Sharia law when it comes to the marriage process, and for other citizens, they also follow the Kenyan law when it comes to the marriage process. So, the processes can differ, but when it comes to the LGBTQ, it's still outlawed. There's a prison sentence, but at the moment, it's not actively campaigned against in the country. People are okay. It's more or less, it's a live and let live thing. But technically, according to the constitution, it's punishable by law for up to 14 years in prison.
15 years?
14 years in prison.
14. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That
So,
sounds fast. And
but
you
it
see
hasn't been.
sometime soon?
As of today, there was a Supreme Court ruling where there's a coalition of LGBTQ people. They were allowed to register as an NGO. So that is going somewhere. So
Mm.
that was allowed, but it's still that's why it says I say it's a live and let live society. It's a don't ask, don't tell situation. Nobody actively goes against people saying like, hey, we're going to arrest you for this. But in some particular regions, especially the coast region, the religion that's predominant there is Islam. So they're very anti LGBTQ, and if they do find out, you are at risk of losing your life, essentially. So I live in the capital city, so it's very liberal. Nobody really asks, nobody wants to know. If that's your relationship, is your business. But in the coast, it's very communal, it's very religion based, and most of the people are Muslim. So they consider it a sin according to Sharia law. So you're at risk of either being stoned or just being excommunicated by your society or friends and family. Yeah.
That must be hard for people. And
Very
do you find that maybe these same-sex couples try to move out of that area of the country and go to somewhere else?
Yes, and I think some people also apply for asylum outside the country if they indeed want to get married. So they have to pick countries that are more LGBTQ friendly countries to go reside in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are families in general um, in in uh, in Kenya? How are they comprised? How are the dynamics? Is there still like the father is the head of the family, or is it more balanced? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so our country has 42 tribes. Those are 42 different people, different, but of the ones that exist, the Kikuyu in particular are the ones that we know from way back have a matrilineal society. But 90% of the tribes of the communities have a patrilineal society. So the patriarchy is very strong, where the man is the head of the family, and then what he says goes. But in places like when you go outside the outskirts up country, then that really applies a lot. But when you come to the capital city, because it can be quite expensive to live in, it's a very 50-50. It's an egalitarian society when it comes to finances
More
specifically.
because of the economics than
Yes,
really. Uh-huh.
but apart from the economics, most families you will find that a man is supposed to be the head of the family. And because most families are Christian, they believe in the Christian structure where it's God, then the man who's the head of the family, then the wife, then the children. So, but some tribes allow polyamory, so a man marries more than one wife, but some don't. It really depends.
And
But for my
is it
community
only
specific,
is it only
sure,
allowed for men?
yes,
Okay, so okay. So women can have only one husband, but they can have many wives.
correct. Women are not allowed to marry more than one husband. It is unheard of. I think if it does happen, it will make it to the national news. So polyamory is only allowed, it's polygamy. It's only allowed for the man. So he marries, he can have multiple wives. In my community, it's allowed for man. Like my grandfather has two wives. There's my grandmother and my step grandmother. My grandmother's father had four wives. So in my community, it's acceptable, except because the people, because of colonialism, and in our particular area, the missionaries that were there were Seventh Day Adventists. So the practice of polygamy is slowly being phased out because Christianity only encourages like one man, one woman marriages. So the more it goes, the fewer people actually practice polygamy.
The more the time passes, the culture is assimilating to the Adventists and
Yeah,
forgetting their roots.
in back home, like, because the difference is the people who live in the cities and the people who live in the west, because we have a very large diaspora, are very modernized, so things are slightly different. But when you go to the villages, the it's not the same. It's still encouraged to have like one man, one woman marriages, but traditionally it's few things like the first wife cannot have keeps having girl children, and the husband wants to have a boy, because boys are considered the ones who pass the inheritance passes through the male children. So he might elect to marry a second wife so that he can see if there's higher chances of having a boy child to pass the inheritance to,
Oh,
essentially.
that's interesting. So, and that is still applicable throughout the country, the inheritance part, male inheritance.
Yes, yes. Apart from the Kikuyu tribe, who are very matrilineal, most tribes are very patrilineal. So you're your father's line. The father then, all in my family, there's two boys and two girls. I am the eldest, but when it comes to inheritance, my brother, who's the eldest boy, all the wealth is going to pass on to him, because they consider girls as foreigners. Essentially, is you will get married to somebody else, therefore you will belong to that
And
other
you will
family.
belong to that tribe and not to your own.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
because we still have dowry.
Uh-huh. Tell us
So
about
when
that. So
I get
how is how is it composed generally?
of the dowry or
Uh-huh.
the marriage
The
process,
dowry first. Mhm.
the dowry varies from person to person. But essentially, the higher the education level, if the girl is more educated, if she has a good job, she has a good reputation, the dowry is a lot higher. And nowadays, usually it's cows. It's cows, but because of modernization, now there's the traditional cow that is requisite for some of the traditional, because there has to be a gathering, right? In
Yeah.
the gathering, there's going to be the slaughter of the cow and a goat. So those ones have to be bought physically. That's part of the dowry that has to be physical. The other ones you can negotiate to either buy land or give the dowry in cash.
And
Because
who negotiates on behalf of the wife, future wife?
the family negotiates. She doesn't. If I was to get married, I actually have no part in the negotiations of the dowry. I am actually completely excluded from it. So the boy and his family come. They come with maybe a few uncles
Mhm.
and maybe a few family members, only male family members. And my family, my uncles, my grandparents, but only male family members, they sit down, there's drinks, there's a celebration, but that's where the discussion happens. So they negotiate. If the boy feels like this is too much, but the thing about it is, it's not supposed to be paid at once. It's supposed to be paid gradually to symbolize that you guys still have a relationship so that they can still go back and visit and talk so that a family relationship can be maintained.
So can a woman choose her husband?
Yes. Yes. I think in that way, our society has never been we pick a husband for you. It's you meet a guy, you agree, you decide you're going to get married, then he has to come to your father or to ask for your hand in marriage. That is very imperative. It's considered very disrespectful if you do something like we met in the city and then we eloped. That is not a marriage that would be acceptable. Like even if I go home, they do not recognize me as being married. Another thing is to ensure that you're not marrying within the family lines. That's why you have to go home and introduce. They do like a background check. They check where you from, where is he from, who are his people, what are the roots. Also, it's also to weed out what kind of people the family is. So if it has alcoholics, people who sell alcohol, people whose behavior is not like they're known for not having good behavior in society.
Mhm.
If that's the case, then the marriage will be rejected. The marriage proposal will be rejected.
Thanks.
It's also to check because family members are very extensive. We have they check you're not from the same clan, you're not marrying from a branch within the family, even including through marriage.
Oh,
Because once you're married, we're considered like a whole family, so you cannot marry within the family, essentially.
well, it gets complicated.
It really does because, for example, say in the Western world, if I have a brother, he can marry my sister-in-law, for example. I
Mhm.
got married, I have my husband has a sister. My
Yeah.
brother can marry his sister abroad, but in our society it's not accepted. Once my husband and I are married, his family is also considered part of our family. So
It's
you
like
cannot
it's
marry
like you
within.
were blood relatives, but you're not. But you're considered like blood relatives once you marry.
Yes.
Oh, very, very interesting. And is there a period where you have to have a relationship prior to getting married?
Yes. In modern society it's accepted. It's quite acceptable to be in a relationship, but in my community in particular, parents are particularly strict. So even if I am in a relationship at the moment, I cannot go to my parents and like with my boyfriend in town, like this is my boyfriend. I am introducing you to my boyfriend. The only way I can do that is maybe after we get engaged, we decide we're serious about getting married,
Uh-huh.
and then I can introduce you to my parents.
Okay.
So you cannot introduce every single person you're in a relationship with over time. Yeah.
It is, yes. Well, sometimes, in certain societies, that's like they change every single week, month of boyfriend, girlfriend. So it's a little nuts in other parts.
Yeah,
So
that is
a
really
balance is
not
good.
The society I'm from, the community I'm from in particular, is very conservative, very very conservative. So it's
I'm
as
so is there the possibility of divorce?
yes, but
But
men are allowed to remarry, but women are heavily criticized if they decide to remarry. It's considered like a blemish upon their character if they decide to remarry. It's even if your husband passed away, for example, if you're widowed, it's still really hard for you to remarry because most of society is not okay with it. Even if you're like older and your children are grown and they have left the house,
uh-huh.
um, still can be can pose a problem. It's
So
not very encouraged.
what happens to widows, for example, then? Does the family of the husband still support them, or what happens to them if they can't really remarry? Or
Typically, because how we live is in the home, there's the parents' house, and then within the compound, every son is given a house, like a space on the land to build their own house. So you will all live in like the same compound, essentially, unless you have moved abroad or you live in the city. But even when you do live in the city, you have a primary home back home. So if you're widowed, you go home and you stay with your mother-in-law and your children. So your children will be supported for sure. If it's financially, emotionally, they will always have a community. But you're also expected to stay within that community.
okay, well, that's that's good. That's good because in other cultures, widows are just left, aside from society, and they have a very difficult time. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah, but there's a different community. They call the Luo community. They're adjacent, like they're a neighboring community. With them, when woman is widowed, there is a wife inheritance culture in that particular community. For example, my husband dies, but he has an older brother. His older brother inherits me as the wife, so he has two wives now,
Like
essentially.
if she were property.
Yes, yes, technically yes, but yeah, they do
just
inherit the wife.
just for the students to understand how it works.
Yes. But their structure also with dowry is completely different. There's three categories of tribes. So we have the Nilotes, the Bantus, and the Kushites. The Kushites are the people from the Horn of Africa. So think Somali people, Eritreans, Ethiopians. They border on the north, and then there's the Nilotes, the people who came from the Nile, so South Sudan. Those are the people that the Luo. They have completely different cultures. And then we have the Bantus. The Bantus come from the south. They spread out from the south, from the Congo area towards the north. So that's the culture I am generally from. That's where one of my tribes is from. So the Bantu people have completely different cultures from the Nilotes. In this case, the Nilotes are the ones who have the wife inheritance culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when we were talking before, you told me that there are laws currently, but then that there is a change coming. So what's that change look like?
The change came because of a ruling that was set as a precedent. Before, common law marriages were accepted. We started living together. It's been 20 years. We have kids. In the eyes of the law, we considered legally married because you find you're under your husband's insurance. But previously, I think it was less than 2 years ago, the ruling changed. Because there was a lot of fights due to inheritance issues. Somebody finds out there was a different wife, they're not formally married. Now it's a lot of fight. So the court said you have to be legally married under the court of law. either the Kenyan constitution or under Sharia law, but you have to be legally married for you to be considered as the legal wife. So when
Mhm.
it comes to inheritance, if you are not the legal wife, you are not getting anything. But the children, all the children from the legal wife or from any other mistresses, anybody involved, usually get the inheritance split equally amongst the children. But if the wife is not a legal wife, they get nothing if the man passes away.
Oh.
So that really changed the game because
Mm.
most people are married under common law. They
Uh-huh.
met, they got to know each other. The guy has already taken dowry to the woman's parents. Under traditional law, they're considered fully married. But now the law is you have to also get legally married by the court in order for your marriage to be recognized.
So these people who were married by common law, their marriage is not recognized like in the transition. They have to go and get legally married now,
From now, from when the ruling started henceforth,
henceforth. Okay.
yeah, they're not legally right now. Kamuste is not recognized as a legal marriage
Wow.
at all. Yeah, it really changed a lot because people were used to. I have taken dowry to the girl's family. The families have met. They know each other. We are now married. But now it's you have to go to the court of law and get married, get sign the requisite papers, and get legally married for it to be recognized.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about your culture?
Hmm. At the moment, things are really changing due to modernization because before my community is a very heavily patriarchal society. The father says, and what he says goes. It comes down to things like choices: where are you going to school, what are you going to study in school. But now, with a lot of empowerment and female empowerment, women are going to school more than the men. Surprisingly, the statistic changed when women started being encouraged to go to school. So we have more educated women than men. So it's really changing the family dynamics from
Mm-hmm.
how it used to be. It's making them more egalitarian, but now it's the problem of domestic violence is also going up because the men view the women as not submissive enough.
Yeah.
But things are also changing where now women are also speaking up about domestic abuse and applying for divorce or taking the men to court or letting them get arrested when before it was a very accepted part of society.
Uh-huh.
It was very generally, it was accepted. It was if your husband is not beating you, then he's a good husband. But now, with more education, things have changed. People are more knowledgeable. There's lower rates of domestic violence or higher instances where, if it does happen, women are reporting it more.
Women are what?
Reporting it a lot
Oh,
more.
14. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
that is a good change. Another thing that has really improved because of modernization is female genital mutilation.
Uh-huh.
That was a very prominent thing in the community. By not so far away, this is as late as the 2010s. So now that it's modernized, it's been ruled as illegal, at least it's stopping. The more modernized parents become, it's stopping because even before, even though it was outlawed, during the holidays, that's when it will be done, but in secret, when children are on break, so
Mm.
that they will kind of healed or recovered by the time they're going back to school. But now at least there's more education out there and it's getting better. It's almost completely stopped. It's a part of the culture that's been completely erased, and that is a good thing.
That is very good to hear. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Unless you have any more questions.
No, no, no. It was very thorough. And thank you so much for your time. Really, this is so important for people to really understand other cultures and get to know how other people live in countries. Thank you, Diana, for sharing your
No
culture with us.
problem. Thank you.